Good morning. It is 9:05 a.m. on Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. The reason I just got up at 9 a.m. is because I had a really long work day last night, literally 8 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Which, obviously is a long day. But fortunately, I don't have to do that very often at all. It's definitely an anomaly, and so every once in a while I don't mind so much, and it actually went pretty smooth as these things go. So that's the explanation for I was out late and therefore getting up, sleeping in a little bit this morning. I think I've earned it. The stuff that I had to do went pretty well, I think. There's parts of it that we have to wait and see how some tests come back, but at least the part that I have control over went pretty smooth. So that's promising. And yeah, trying to think if I have anything else I need to say about that. No. Also, just finishing over kind of the weekend was the E3 Electronics Gaming Expo, which is just of interest because I play a lot of video games. I like video games, and so they announce all sorts of new video games in the E3 Expo. So it's actually just been something that I've paid attention to for a long time, just because it's fun. And so they have various news conferences over the course of, they had, I think, one on Saturday, and then a couple on Sunday, and then a couple more yesterday, that I wasn't able to watch any of those live because, of course, I was working all day. And even more of an all day than usual. But I've watched a couple of the trailers since, and I am super excited for the new SpiderMan game. Which, I'm a big fan of Spider-Man, which you guys may realize. It's been a while since I broke out all the Spider-Man toys, but I have multiple Spider-Man toys. I wouldn't claim it to be any sort of a large collection from anyone who actually seriously collects things, but given that I don't just seriously collect things, I just randomly buy Spider-Man toys on a whim and end up with a lot of them. I like Spider-Man. So having this new game looks really cool. I'm excited for it. And then the new trailer for Last of Us 2 looks really good. There's a bunch more trailers that I haven't watched yet, but just lots of exciting games coming out. I've mixed feelings about Fallout 76 because I'm a big fan of that series. But at the same time, the new one is, they're saying, softcore survival online multiplayer, which, I don't know, it's not really what I'm looking for. I mean, that's not to say it couldn't be good, but, and I mean, I'm sure it could be a very good time especially if you're playing with friends. I mean, it could be a fun game, but I also just, and like they're very like, well, you can play it solo, but there are a lot of games like that where it's like you can play it solo, but you don't recommend it because you're gonna just have a hard time and it's gonna be boring because the game is designed around playing it with other people. And just because you are not forced to interact with anyone doesn't mean that there are still interesting things to do if you're not interacting with anyone. So I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, that one's, I was going to say a ways off. I guess it comes out in November, but we'll hear more about it. And we'll get a better sense of what's actually there. And then the other game that I was wanting to pay attention to is Anthem, because I'm a big fan of the BioWare games like the Dragon Age series and Mass Effect series. And Anthem is their new thing, new property, but it's also their venture into online multiplayer, and I watched the trailer and I super wanted to like it, but I feel like it's like they've just made Destiny again, and I'm not 100% convinced why it's not just Destiny. I mean, not that Destiny's a bad game, but it's just very much an online multiplayer game where you do that instead of the heavily story-based game that is kind of what I liked about the other BioWare games. So, I know there's a lot of people who share my perspective online, and you know, maybe given that this is a direction a lot of games are going, maybe I need to be a little bit more open to that. I mean, I have played Destiny with, you know, friends before and had a lot of fun, but it's just it's a question of, since video games already take up a not insignificant amount of my time, I kind of feel like any game experience has to reach some threshold where it's not just about killing time in a vaguely entertaining way. Am I getting something else out of it? And the heavily story-based games, I feel like I do, because I experience a new story, and that's satisfying creatively, and it gives me new ideas for other things. Whereas the multiplayer is like fun in the moment, and I don't know, maybe I ought to not dismiss the idea of deepening relationships with online friends as nothing. I don't know. Anyway, I've got to go ahead and get to work for real now, and so I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.